all of us expect Arsenal to win this match. I think that Arsenal are going to win about 2-0. Worst case scenario, maybe 2-1 or 3-1. So my predicted score it would be 2-1. Alright, 2-1 in favor of Arsenal. That would be my correct score. Yeah. So that would be my prediction in terms of the correct score for this match. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, 2-1 in favor of Arsenal. And in terms of the possible goal scorers, so, when I'm selecting goal scorers, I select goal scorers who score anytime. So let's go to goals. No, not goals. Let's see. Goal scorers. We're going to look for anytime goal scorer, yeah? And from Crystal Palace's side, Zaha is always a good bet. And but in terms of we're going to look at Arsenal. So in terms of Arsenal, in terms of possible goal scorers, it would be Gabriel Jesus, and also you'd have Eddie Nketiah, and you'd have Bayako Saka, and also Emil Smith Rowe. He's somewhat of a super sub, and so therefore you cannot count him out whenever it comes down to the scoring. But Gabriel Jesus anytime scorer most definitely, yes. And so therefore those guys would be a part of my anytime goal scorers, yeah. So you're getting $2.30 for Gabriel to score at any point in the game, and that's a good odd, yeah. You're getting $8 for predicting the score, 2-1 in favor of Arsenal. That's a good odds, yeah. And in terms of results, as I pointed out, if you want to do it in the handicap, you could also, just to stay on the safer side, you can go to mean bets, and then you could bet the handicap. And then you would bet that Arsenal would win by a goal. And in order to bet that Arsenal would win by a goal, you would go here and you would select. This is it, yeah? So you'd select. No, you want one that, yeah, this is it, the one that says -1 Arsenal, yeah? This means that Arsenal should win by a goal. Alright? So you'd select that. So these are my 3 predictions for this game. Arsenal to win. Super goal scorer, Gabriel Jesus, Emil Smith Rowe, Freddie Nketiah. Cannot count out Odegaard as well. And also you would have Martinelli. He might score, you never know. But in terms of persons who are predicted to score, Gabriel Jesus is a striker and he's had a very good preseason so far. So he would be expected to carry on scoring and they're expected to win. Worst case scenario, I say might be a draw, but I do expect Arsenal to win 2-1. And as I say, also you don't if you don't want to bet the correct score, you can also bet Arsenal winning by a goal, which is you go to the handicap and you select -1 in favor of Arsenal, and they're getting $3.10. So that's a good odd. All right. So that's the first game for the this week. That's for the game one this week. I think that it's the start of another wonderful premiership. I really do believe that, just to put it out there, I think that it's going to be between Liverpool and Man City this year again as usual. But let's see. I think Liverpool will get off with the early runnings. I think by the time we get around to the World Cup, Liverpool should be leading the tables. But I think Man City will be just behind them. Alright, Tottenham are my surprise team this year. They are the ones who could spoil the party like Leicester did a couple years ago. But if they win the league, I would be surprised. So if you're interested, you could put a bet on Tottenham to win the Premiership this season. Alright, so moving on to our next match. The next match here is. Let's clear these now and move on to the next match in the game week. Alright. Next match would have been Fulham versus Liverpool, and that's Saturday. Alright. So in terms of predicted results for Fulham versus Liverpool, Liverpool is expected here to win by, I would say, 2 goals. Best case scenario, maybe about 3 goals. 3 goals to nil for Liverpool. On a bad day, which I don't think is going to happen tomorrow, it will be a draw, yeah? But I do have Liverpool winning. Liverpool to win, and as I said, Liverpool to win 2-0. If you're not interested in betting the correct score, and as I said, the correct score here, Liverpool to win 2-0 would be $7, yeah? And if you're going to go via the handicap system just to stay on the safer side, and you want to just bet the amount of goals that you expect them to win by, then you could bet Liverpool to win by 2 goals. Alright? And that's $2.87. That's a nice return as well. So in terms of possible goal scorers now, obviously, as I said, whenever I'm selecting goal scorers, I try not to select anytime goal scorers. That's way better and it's way safer. Alright. So in terms of based on how Fulham is positioned, if anyone is going to score for them, it would be Alexander Mitrovic. He had a wonderful record in the championship last year, but he has failed to impress time after time. Never to come up to the Premiership. Let's see, you might get it right this year, but if you're going to bet on someone to score anytime for Fulham, your best bet would be Mitrovic, yeah? And also, in terms of Liverpool, we have a plethora of persons who could score. Obviously, we have here Mohamed Salah as $1.70 to score at any point in the match. Darwin Nunes scored $1.85. I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if Darwin doesn't start. And looking at him in preseason, he seems to be a bit off the ball. He's not yet up to full fitness. So, but he could come on and score. Roberto Firmino should start, I believe, and so therefore, if he starts, there's a possibility that he might score. Luis Diaz, this is a good one. I take this one. Luis Diaz scored in the point in the game, yeah. I take that. Let's see where that's $2.50. Let me just go back up here and find it. I'll just add that. That's $2.50. Luis Diaz scored in the point in the game, so yes. I have Liverpool winning this game, 2 goals to nil. And as I say, if you don't want to bet the correct score, you can always go to the handicap system and bet that Liverpool should win by 2 goals. And so the goal scorers, Alexander Mitrovic for Fulham. Also, you and for Liverpool, you'd have Mohamed Salah, have Luis Diaz, and Darwin Nunes. Those guys are the usual goal scorers, so the guys who usually score for Liverpool. But if you want somebody who doesn't usually score, who might score, well, Virgil usually scores headers, even though he might pop up in the box and score one. And so that would be a really good ad if you should bet on Virgil to score. But these are my bets for this particular game. My predictions, that is. And as I said, in case, again, if you want a little bit of head-to-head history here, just a little footnote, and get a little head-to-head history here. And so this basically gives the last 4 matches between the teams. So it tells you what the results are like in terms of head-to-head. The last 4 games, Liverpool won 3, 1 draw, and 1 win for Fulham. Yeah, and then you can also go here, and you see there the last one, 2 or 5 games. So this shows their form. Yeah, and so you can look at the form here. Shows the score. Yeah, so this the thing here. This the house thing means that it was a home match, and the at sign means that it was away. Yes. Here we have the location. So Fulham is at home, but I still do expect Liverpool to beat them by about 2 goals to nil. All right. So moving on to our next game, which is Barman versus Austinville. I think this one is going to be a tricky one somewhat. Barman, they did very well defensively last year in the championship, and I expect them to be that way for them somewhat. Coming up in the Premiership, I do think they might get relegated, but let's see how it goes. But looking at this, I would say off the top of my head, I think that Aston Villa to win 1-0. Aston Villa to win 1-0. In terms of an upset, I would say this would turn out to be a draw. Yes, nil draw. Nil draw, but I do expect Aston Villa to win here 1-0 based on what they have been doing in preseason. I expect them to win 1-0. So in terms of correct score, I'd have Aston Villa win in 1-0. I'm going to do it on the handicap system. I'd have Aston Villa winning by a goal. So let's go down find the handicap system here. This is 2, this is 1. So -1 means that you should win by a goal. If it's +1, that means that you start the game with a goal. Alright? You start the game 1-0 ahead. Here you start the game 1-0 down. So you should win this game. You'd have to go ahead and so for example, if Barman should score, Aston Villa are going to have to score 2 goals. And not 2 goals, they're going to have to score 3 goals. Because Barman would have started the game with leading the game 1-0 based on the handicap system. So in order for Aston Villa to win by a goal, they'd have to score 3 goals if Barman scores. Yes? They're capable of doing so. They're in good form, but I don't expect Barman to score really and truly. As I said, I expect Aston Villa to win by a goal to nil, and the worst case scenario, the game ends in a draw. Yes, because it's early season and we might have some draws early in the season. Teams are not yet up to full speed. We might have some draws. In terms of solo goal scorers, again, we're going to look for the anytime goal scorers because I think it's safer. Because you don't want to select a specific time. It's kind of hard to get a spotlight some of the time, especially so early in the season. So for Bournemouth, it'd obviously be their striker, Dominic Solanke. Stanislas is a good midfielder as well, but he doesn't score as very much. He usually provides, and so therefore, but Victor Solanke would be a good bet for anytime goal scorer if Bournemouth should score. Jamal Lowe is a good sub. He usually comes on and does very well, so he could surprise us, but I don't expect it for this match. In terms of goal scorers for Aston Villa, I would say Ollie Watkins, and Felipe Coutinho, and also Danny Iggs. Leon Bailey is in good form, and so he has been scoring and he has been putting away his chances in preseason. And so, but for me, I would say the possible anytime goal scorer that I'll go with for this game is going to be Ollie Watkins. I'm going to select Ollie Watkins for my anytime goal scorer. But as I said, you have Ollie Watkins, you have Dominic Solanke, you have Danny Iggs, Leon Bailey, all those players. Yes, they can score for you at any point. All right, so these are my predictions for the Bournemouth versus Aston Villa game. Aston Villa to win by a goal to nil. Worst case scenario, the game ends in a draw. And as I say, if you don't want to bet the correct score, you can always go on the handicap system and bet for Aston Villa to win by a goal. You get $3.75 for that. And also, I've selected Ollie Watkins as my anytime goal scorer. Yeah, so that's how I see the Barman versus Aston Villa game going. Next, we're going to move on to Leeds versus Wolverhampton. Now, this is a very interesting one. Leeds, they have been suffering from some injuries in preseason. Well, from that before the season finished last, they've been suffering from some injuries. They have some new players. Yes, they have some new players. A number of new players. They have Scholes Phillips. I think it's a bad move. Phillips he's not going to get as much game time this year, the World Cup year, but it's his decision, yeah. But for Wolverhampton versus Leeds, I think that Leeds might win this game. I think Leeds might win this game. I am a bit in saying that, but I do think that Leeds are going to win this game. I do think that they're going to win it. I see Leeds winning this game maybe 2-1. 2-1. If anything should happen, otherwise it would be the other way around. 2-1 in favor of Wolverhampton. But I'm going to say Leeds to win this game 2-1. So in terms of correct score, I'd say Leeds to win this game 2-1. If you want it better than the handicap system, that means that Leeds would be winning by a goal. That means I'm going to have to do 2 -1 for Leeds. Here it is. -1 for Leeds. Leeds winning by a goal on the handicap system. In terms of possible goal scorers, Rodrigo has been doing well. Rodrigo has been doing well. So again, we're going to go to anytime goal scorer. And I select Rodrigo Moreno as one of the possibilities. Patrick Bamford as well. He's one of the possibilities as well. But I think that he's going to need some time to warm into the games. He hasn't done much in preseason in terms of goals. I think he had maybe one goal in the preseason. But I expect Rodrigo. It's between Rodrigo and Bamford for Leeds in terms of goal scorers. In terms of goal scorers for Wolverhampton, it's going to be between Echan one. Jimenez is out injured, so I expect Echan to start, and so therefore he could end up scoring. Also, Pedro Neto, he could score as well. Daniel Podence is a good player. He could end up scoring as well, so he's one that you'd have to watch out for in terms of possible goal scorers. Any other possible goal scorer here, I would say might be Moutinho. The Moutinho might. Well, you never know. Sometimes the goals come from some strange places. But for me, I am going to go with Rodrigo as my anytime goal scorer. Yes, I'm going to select him. So for this match, I expect Leeds to win 2-1. And if you're going to bet on the handicap system, that would mean that Leeds will win it by a goal. So therefore, you're going to get $4.33 for that. And my anytime goal scorer to score at any point in the match, I have Rodrigo Moreno. I could there, and as I said, there are other possibilities there as well. You have Pedro Neto, you have Moutinho, you have Echan, one from Wolverhampton because Jimenez is out, and also you have Patrick Bamford. So Bamford, rather, sorry. So those are my selections for this game, my predictions rather, and so therefore that's what I have for the Leeds versus Wolverhampton game. So as I said, worst case scenario, see the Leeds winning 2-1 or Wolverhampton winning 2-1. And a bad day is like at the start of the season, you might find yourself ending up with a draw. I wouldn't be surprised if a number of these first games end up in draws. Next, we'll be moving on to Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. New boys. Unfortunately, I don't expect them to stay up this year. But they have made some wholesale changes to their teams, and so therefore, let's see how they fare in this season of Premiership. Yeah. In terms of head-to-head clash, they've had 5 matches, and Nottingham Forest surprisingly have won 3. These would have been donkey years ago, maybe sometime in the 90s, and Newcastle have won 2. In terms of recent form, this is how it's looking, and Newcastle they have done well in 60% of their games, and for Nottingham Forest they're not where they would like to be. Let's just put it like that. But in terms of predicted winner for this game, I do believe that Newcastle being at home, Newcastle should come away with the victory. They come away with the victory. Worst case scenario, this ends in a draw. But I do expect Newcastle to win this game about by 2 goals to 0. Sorry about that. By 2 goals to 0, yeah. Expect Newcastle to win by 2 goals to 0. In terms of correct score, it would be Newcastle 2 goals to 0. We're going to bet on the handicap system, then that would be Newcastle winning by 2 goals. And so in terms of possible goal scorers for this game now, let's say I go with anytime goal scorer. So Callum Winslow should start, and Usually he's a good finisher if the opportunities are provided. And so therefore he'd be a possible goal scorer. And Bruno Guimaraes could be a possible goal scorer as well. And also Miguel Almiron, he has been doing very well in preseason. So if he comes on with some amount of time, he could threaten the scores as well. Yes, so he could be a part of the debate for possible goal scorers. Also, Joe Willock. If Joe Willock starts, he usually finds himself scoring, so he should be able to score as well. And so, therefore, those are the possible goal scorers for Newcastle, from my point of view. In terms of possible goal scorers for Nottingham Forest, don't know much about them, but Lingard did very well when he was on loan at West Ham. I think he should be carrying the bulk of the work here in midfield, and he should do very well. And so therefore, he would be a possible goal scorer for me in this game. Jesse Lingard. Now, apart from Jesse Lingard, we have Brennan Johnson and also Awani. No, Awani E. Awani. Awani. But I go with Jesse Lingard. I mean, what he has done and what he's capable of doing, I think I'll have him as my anytime goal scorer. Mind you, I have him as one of my anytime goal scorer, but so therefore no. But for this game, I have Newcastle winning 2-0, so therefore I would select Liam Wilson to be my anytime goal scorer. Because I have Newcastle winning, so I'm not going to pick a player from Nottingham Forest to be my anytime goal scorer, right? So those guys, these are my predictions for this game. Newcastle win by 2 goals again. Worst case scenario, I think it might end in a draw if it doesn't end in a win for Newcastle. Also, if you don't want to bet the score, you can bet on the handicap system where you can bet Newcastle winning by 2 goals. That is getting $5.25 for doing that. And my possible goal scorer, anytime goal scorer, would be Callum Wilson. So I have Callum Wilson, we have Jesse Lingard. So I have Jesse Lingard, we have Miguel Almiron and Bruno Guimaraes. Alright, those are my predictions for the Newcastle Nottingham Forest game. After Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, we move on to Tottenham Hotspurs versus Southampton. Tottenham Hotspurs will be at home. Tottenham Hotspurs will be at home, and so therefore I'm expecting them to win. And based on what Conte has been doing in preseason and what he did last year, I think they should pick up from where they left off. And as I said, I have Tottenham Hotspurs as the dark horses here to win the Premiership this season. So therefore, Tottenham Hotspurs to win here if Harry Kane and Son finds form on Saturday, then this could turn out to be very nasty for Southampton. I do expect Tottenham to win here by 2 goals. 2 goals, and if it's a bad day for Southampton, I expect them to win by 4. But for now, I am going to have Tottenham winning by 2-0. Alright, so my predicted score for this game will be Tottenham winning by 2-0. If you want to bet on the handicap system, you don't want to predict the correct score per se because they could win by 2 goals. And but the game doesn't end up 2-0, it might end up 4-2. Alright? Or something like that. So on the handicap system, it would be goals. So Tottenham to win by 2 goals. You can do $3.40 for that. In terms of possible goal scorers, we have a number of them. Harry Kane, the anytime goal scorer. Harry Kane being the obvious choice. And Son Heung-min Also, anyone else could score for Tottenham. I think it would be. Let's go through the list here. Be Lasetsky. The first three, Harry Kane, Son Heung-min, could have guessed the Jones, Lasetsky score as well. But I think that Harry Kane will be scoring. Maybe he scores both goals. But let's see what happens on Saturday. In terms of Southampton, if anyone could come up and score, I think we might have James Ward-Prowse. If they get a free kick in a particular year, then he could create some serious damage. So he'd be a possible goal scorer for me here. James Ward-Prowse, Shea Adams, he's a gentleman who knows where the goal is whenever he's provided the opportunity. So I would have James Ward-Prowse, Shea Adams, and Adam Armstrong. Yeah, those are the guys I'd select from Southampton. But as I have Tottenham to win here, then I would say Harry Kane. I'd select Harry Kane as my anytime goal scorer. Yes, Harry Kane to score anytime in this match. And so therefore, that's what I would have had here for this match. Tottenham Hotspurs versus Southampton. Tottenham Hotspurs, I expect them to win by 2 goals. If it's a awful day for Southampton, I expect them to win by 4. If you don't want to do the correct score, you can also go on the handicap system and bet by Tottenham to win by 2 goals, getting $3.40 on Betway here. If you should do it today, because as you know, the closer the games get, the odds are going to go down a little bit. So that's another thing with sports betting. The earlier you bet, the better for you in a sense. But you also want to ensure that you do your research in terms of injury reports and all of that jazz, and where the matches are being held and all of that, because those things impact the outcome of the games. So as I say, Harry Kane, I have Harry Kane as my anytime goal scorer for this game. So these are my predictions for this particular game. So the next game we'd have had for game week 1, it would be Everton versus Chelsea. Alright? Everton versus Chelsea. Now this game is it's interesting for me based on the preseason that Chelsea have had, but they have a very good set of players, and Everton they're struggling badly. They're struggling badly. I think if they're not careful, they could find themselves getting relegated this season. In my opinion, that is. I really do think so. I think they could find themselves getting relegated if they don't put themselves together early in the season. I mean, if 10 games come in this season, either 10 games come in this season, and they're languishing at the bottom of the table, then I think that's going to be curtains for them. And that might be curtains as well for Frank. Yes, but let's move on to the prediction for this match. I expect this game to end in a draw. Expect this game to end in a draw. Expect this game to end in a draw. I think it's either gonna be 1-1 or 0-0, to be honest with you. I think this game is going to end in a draw. So I'd have this game and then 1-1. Alright? Any other result outside this, it would be Chelsea winning by, let's say, about 2 goals. But I am going to go with this game being ended in a draw, alright? 1-1 between Chelsea and Everton. Everton is playing at home, Goodison Park. So that's one of the reasons why I'm saying, hey, they're going to end up in a draw here, because Everton is in a bad spot. They know that they need to perform, so they're going to be stepping up the game. And Chelsea is not yet the unit that Thomas Tuchel expect them to be. I think after 3 or 4 games or 5 games, they'll get there, and they'll be way more competitive and way harder to beat. So in terms of the handicap system, we'd have here, so this, if you don't want to bet a correct score, you can come here and bet, and you would see, you'd bet in. This game would be a 1-all. But if this is a -1, 1 -1 would be what we do here would bet a, if you should bet Everton in this situation, then that means that Everton would end up lose because the game would end a draw. Should bet Chelsea, Chelsea would end up here winning because they would have started the game with one goal and then scored another, so they won 2-1 on the handicap system. So therefore, in terms of the handicap system, what I'd bet here, I'd bet a draw. +1 draw. In terms of possible goal scorers, we're going to go to anytime goal scorer. Our anytime goal scorer here would be for Everton, would be, I would say, Dele Alli. Dele Alli is there. Demar agree. Expect him to be a provider. Score as well. Dwight McNeil, if he's given the opportunity, he will score. Alexi Wobi as well, he can score, but I am heavily favoring Dele Alli and Dwight McNeil here to score for Everton. If Albert is fit and ready, which I don't think he's, I think he's injured. Albert as well would be on that list. In terms of scores for Chelsea, it would be Kai Havertz, Raheem Sterling. Sterling is not yet up to full pace, I believe. He has not yet gelled into the system, but as soon as he does, then he will be a handful. Alright, and Mason Mount. So for my anytime goal scorer here, I'm going to select Mason Mount from Chelsea. So I select Mason Mount for that. And as I said, so going back again, going through the prediction for the Everton Chelsea game, I expect it to end in a 1-all draw or a 0-0 draw. Well, I do expect it to draw. Whether 1-all, 0-0, 2-all, I expect it to draw. So the goal scorer, I expected Mason Mount. As I said, apart from Mason Mount, you have Raheem Sterling, you have Kai Havertz, you have Reece James, and for Everton, you have Dele Alli, you have Alex Iwobi, you have Calvert Llewellyn, yes, and those guys could score. Any one of those guys could score on the day, but I have chosen to go with Mason Mount. If it wasn't Mason Mount, I would have gone with Raheem Sterling. Yes, and so those are my predictions for this game. Everton versus Chelsea. This game will be played at Goodison Park. So if there's home advantage, as we tend to say, then Everton should have it. And so therefore that's the reason I think they should come out with a draw. Alright. Moving on to our next game. Our next game would be Leicester versus Brentford. Leicester versus Brentford. This game is another interesting game. If Leicester can find their form, they should be able to beat Brentford here. They should be able to beat Brentford, and so therefore I'm going to have them beating Brentford 2-1. 2-1, or if something happens, then the result could be flipped. It could be Brentford 2-1. But no, I'm going to, because Leicester is playing at home and they usually do very well at home over the years. So I'm going to have them winning 2-1. Or if I should bet another score, I'd say 1-0. But no, Brentford has a good team, and so therefore I would be surprised if they score. Therefore, I'm going to predict that this game should end 2-1 in favor of Leicester. If you want to bet on the handicap system, you'd bet that Leicester would be winning by a goal. And so for Leicester would win by a goal, you're getting $3.50 for that. In terms of possible goal scorers, As we all know, Jamie Vardy is a given. So anytime goal scored, Jamie Vardy, that's one of them. And Nacho is one of them as well. If he comes on, I don't think he's going to start. And also Madison. And the other person that could score, I think, might be Harvey Barman. Alright? So those are my predicted anytime goal scorers for Leicester. In terms of Brentford, I think we're going to have Ivan Toney. We're going to have Brian Mbomo. And also, I would have let me see here. I'm looking. I see another goal scorer here. So if for Brentford it would be Ivan Toney and Bueno, and I think one of the defenders could come up and score as well as Canas in the midfield, but I think Canas is injured, so Canas won't be playing tomorrow. Norgard is a good player. He could do well. This guy was expected to. Nyeka Frank was expected to do well last season. Maybe this season might be his season, but that's the winning, so I'm going to go with Vardy to be my anytime goal scorer. Alright? That makes me Vardy score at any point in the game. Leicester to win this game 2-1. And if you're going to bet on the handicap system, you'd bet that Leicester to winning by a goal. Alright? So for that game, that's my prediction. In terms of our next game, which is Manchester United versus Brighton, this game will be played at Old Trafford. So Manchester United should have home advantage. They've been doing really poorly. They now have a new coach in the form of Erik Ten Hag. He won the Dutch Premiership last season, the Ariane. So let's see how he fares in the Premiership. I expect Manchester United to finish in the top 5, top 6 this season. I think depending on the start they get, they might struggle again to get Champions League football, but they should get Europa League, worst case scenario. Alright? So in terms of this game, Brighton always does well against Manchester United for some reason. Brighton and Leicester, they always do very well against Manchester United. And so therefore this game, I have this game in a draw. Brighton didn't concede much last year. I didn't score too many either. That's the reason why they didn't finish higher up the table, but I expect this game to end in a draw. I expect this game to end 1-1. 1-1. I expect this game to end 1-1. So this game should end 1-1. If it does not end 1-1, I think what could happen is Manchester to end up squeezing this game 2-0. So it's either 1-0 or 2-0 in favor of Manchester United. In terms of the score on the handicap system, you would have Manchester United you could have here draw. Or you could, as I say, you could have Manchester United winning by a goal. Okay, in terms of anytime goal scores, Cristiano starts, you expect him to score because he would be up front. Any opportunities that are provided, he might get one of those opportunities, and so he could score. Aside from that, Bruno isn't far from scoring as usual. He's always there. Anthony Martial, he has done very well in preseason, so he could score as well. And Marcus Rashford, if he can find his form, then he could end up scoring as well. He's a possible goal scoring threat. Also, Jadon Sancho, also another guy who could score for Manchester United. In terms of possible scorers for Brighton, we'll have Mopé and Welbeck, Trossard as well, and also this new fella here in Cisco. If he starts, he could end up scoring as well. So, but I am going to, because Manchester has been at home, I'm going to I'm going to select Cristiano. We've been hearing some chatter about Cristiano possibly not starting on some Wednesday. Let's go back here and see which day this is starting on. Yeah, on Sunday. But well, for me is Cristiano. Anytime goal scorer Cristiano. Not Cristiano, it's Anthony Martial. So I'm going to go with Cristiano as our anytime goal scorer here. These are my predictions for the Manchester United versus Brighton game. Moving on to our next game, or game week 1 of the English Premier League. Our final game is with the defending champions Manchester City versus West Ham. This game will be at the London Stadium, the home of West Ham. And there for West Ham, they have bought some new players, made a few changes. David Moyes is usually a very good organizer, and he usually manages his team very well. And so therefore, as I say, that the season usually has surprises, but I'm not expecting none just yet. And so therefore, for this game, I am seeing here, I expect Manchester City to come out on top. I have them winning by 2 goals to 1 here. I have Manchester City winning by 2 goals to 1. If it's a really good day for Manchester City, they could end up winning 3-0. But I have them winning 2-1 here. And so therefore, if you want to go outside of the box, you could bet for a draw as well. Because as I said, David Moyes is usually a very good organizer. And I wouldn't be too surprised if it ends in a draw. But City win 2 goals to 1. If it's a very bad day for West Ham, then they should win by 3 goals to 0. Alright. Winning by a goal here because I have a 2-1 score. That means that they're winning by a goal. In terms of predicted goal scorers, then it would be anytime goal scorer would be for West Ham. We have Antonio to come on the well. He's has not been done much in pre-season. I guess he's comes out of injury. Saeed Benrahma is always one that you have to keep in mind. Also, we have Gerard Boyne. That guy can come in and do very well for West Ham as well. In terms of possible goal scorers for Manchester City, then you would have new kid on the block, Erwin Haaland. He could score. He knows where the goal is, but I think he's going to need a couple of games to get up to speed. He's a little bit off boiled right now. He's not where he was, let's say, a season or two ago. But I think after 5 or 6 games, then he will get on point, and then he will start to provide those goals. So outside of Erling Haaland, I will expect Kevin De Bruyne or Riyad Mahrez to come in and do something. And Phil Foden, if he gets enough time, then he could score as well. Also, Bernardo Silva could come in and do some damage as well. But I'm going to give with Kevin to be my anytime goal scorer in this game. Alright, so my prediction for this game in terms of score is 2-1 in favor of Manchester City. Worst case scenario, this game ends in a draw. And if you want to do it on the handicap system, then you'd bet that Manchester City winning by a goal. Alright, and by anytime goal score would be Kevin De Bruyne. Outside of Kevin De Bruyne, then you will have Erling Haaland or Phil Foden or Riyad Mahrez. If you want to select a scorer from West Ham, I'd suggest you select Antonio or Saeed Benrahma. Alright, so these are my predictions for game week 1 of the English League. And so therefore, I wish that we have best of luck this season, and hopefully each game week would end up winning. And if you don't win this game week, then you end up winning the next game week or the following game week. Also, just another little tip going forward, as I said, whenever you're making a betting slips, I suggest that you don't put no more than 5 matches on a slip or 5 predictions. The less predictions you have on a slip, the better for you. But then again, the less predictions you have, the more money you're going to have to invest. But I say what you should take an approach of compounding your earnings when it comes down to betting. Don't bet no more than you can afford to lose, and whenever you make a profit, then you reinvest those profits rather than to dip back into your personal savings. So that way you're not end up losing your money. Alright? So happy betting and congratulations to all of those who will be cashing in this week. Thank you.